Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Shane and I'm delighted to be joined by Daniel Christian, MVP Financial Service USA, who will be talking to you today about how to make use of all the Power Apps admin features and also some free tools. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC20. Don't forget to check out the Resource Center. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the content link at the top. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you have in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and you will be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter, Daniel Christian. Hello, Daniel.
Hey, all right, let me go ahead and can you just do a quick check, a mic check and a screen check?
Sure, just bear with me here. I'm just going to give you presenting abilities. So just bear with me here. There we go. Well, make presenter. There we go. Take it away.
Perfect. All right. Showing my screen and let's go. So, hey everyone, I'm showing my video camera as well, so I'm sure you can see me. My name is Daniel Christian, and I'm really excited to be over here to talk about all the Power Apps admin features that I've learned over the past few years. So, just to give you a quick recap for those of you who are listening to me and seeing me for the first time, I do come from an infrastructure background, and I always make sure I point that out is because I was never a developer. I didn't do any hard coding, and if someone like me can even adopt the Power Platform and then also go ahead and start being the administrator of that, that's saying something that an infrastructure person can also do that. I was also an early adopter of the Power Apps. So I've been working with this ever since it was in preview. So that's going over 4 years ago. So I was an early adopter of the Power Apps. And then in addition to that, I just don't do a siloed thing on just Power Apps or Power Automate or Power BI, and now the new member of the family, Power Virtual Agents. I look at it as a whole thing, the holistic approach of the Power Platform, and I leverage all of them because it's so powerful that it's really in your best interest to leverage it all. So that's what I look at. Is I look at the entire Power Platform. My personal interest has also been in machine learning and artificial intelligence because that's so tied into pretty much everything in Microsoft that it's best that I leverage it. And then I keep a close eye on connectors. Connectors. I look at all of them because every month new connectors come out, and if I ever had a need for a connector, today and it's not available, in the next month or two it already comes out. So these are the things that I really I'm gonna keep a close eye on. Now, along with this is I'm a big proponent of sharing knowledge. So I blog a lot on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and if you just search for Daniel Christian Power Apps, you can see all my, I think I've got like 85 different videos over there right now. So one of the things I ask is definitely like, comment, and subscribe because it's in your best interest. The next video comes out, you'll automatically be alerted for that, and it's free. Now, along with all these other technical things that I do, one of my other hobbies is I do musical holiday lights. What can I say? I work hard, I play hard. So it is every time during the holiday season, on after Thanksgiving, the show starts in my house, and it's not uncommon to have cars parked outside my house. They tune in their their FM channels to my channel and just enjoy a full show. So I thought I'll just give you a little bit of a background of me. Okay, so let's kind of dive in now. So it's making use of all the Power Apps admin features. There's a little change I want to actually make in this presentation. I want to change that from Power Apps to the entire Power Platform because everything I'm going to spend now the next 50 minutes applies to the entire Power Platform because at the end of the day, it's under one umbrella. So I'm sure every one of you will not mind this, but I just wanted to call that out is that everything I'm going to say over here doesn't just apply to Power Apps, it applies to the entire Power Platform over there. And then as I move forward, it'll make more sense to you. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of citizen developers for the Power Platform just exploded across the entire world. All right. But what I was noticing was that there were a lot of scenarios where the citizen developers started coming in and making apps, and they just built some fantastic and mind-boggling apps over there. But there was very little administrative work that was done on the Power Platform. So I decided, and as you can see, I've come up with this code over there. It says for all the Power Platform citizen developers, we need innovative administrators. By the way, this is my code. Feel free to go ahead and use it. So let's talk about is what does it take to be an innovative administrator? So these are some of the things that I personally have seen other companies do it. I personally have even myself done it, and I want to kind of bring that out to your attention. And feel free to go ahead and implement any of these, add your own ideas to it. But this is what I define as an innovative administrator. First is when it comes to the Power Platform, you have to or must have the Power Platform admin role. And this is the Office 365 Power Platform admin role. I'm not talking about your company job role or your, in the HR category, what you find. I'm talking about Office 365. There are roles over there for security purposes. This is the one that the Power Administrator one needs to have, because I've run into that situation as well. I do a lot of mentoring, and people come in and says, hey, I'm working on the situation. I'm not able to see the common data services or these new environments people are working on. Turns out they don't have the Power Platform admin role. So when you are owning the admin feature, make sure that you have that role over there. Second thing is, it's best that, or it's preferable that you were or are a citizen developer, because then you know firsthand what these citizen developers need over there. I have come across a lot of situations where an existing citizen developer also took on the role as an admin. I've also come across situations where existing Azure admins were just told, hey, you're an Azure admin, go ahead and become a Power Platform admin as well. So do those people actually say that if you don't even want to become a developer, at least do the Power Platform app in the day. And then there's also the Power Platform admin in the day. I highly recommend those two, specifically for the innovative administrators as well, because then you get a holistic approach. Like, what does it take to build an app? And then after that, also one of the best features are things that you need to know as behind the scenes of what all the administrative skill requirements are. Obviously, I'll be covering all of those in the session over here, but those two workshops, which are absolutely free, I highly recommend those. Understanding the application lifecycle management. Now, I know in the Power Apps section over there, the Power Platform, they have their own application lifecycle management, or ALM, which is great. Go through that. But I'm talking about another holistic approach as well. In fact, many of your companies may already have an ALM process over there. So understand that is what is the requirement for this app? Is it actually replacing something which is already being done? What is it that was being done? Why is it being replaced over there? That's one thing. Having a discussion on a quarterly basis that, hey, how is this app is being used? Was it built for just a line of business? If the line of business became so successful with that, maybe it's ready to push this up to the enterprise level so everybody else can use it. Just looking at that, has the app performance being affected a little bit? Or is there a need for another app which is going to be replacing this? So is it time to sunset the existing app over there? Things like that. So there is the technical ALM process already that comes with Power Apps, but I'm telling you that go above and beyond that. Look at it from your own company purpose. Because remember, you're going to be the admin. So along with technical skill sets and technical responsibilities, you're going to have these management responsibilities as well. So understand the application lifecycle management. Again, as the admin, in addition to all the citizen developers, you as the admin, you need to be aware of these latest announcements that are coming out that are on the, announcements that come out on a monthly basis, announcements that come out on their whole, quarterly basis as well. It is your responsibility to be aware of all that. And there's so many ways to do that. The few good ones that I do is in those community forum places over there. There's for all 4 of them now, and I'll briefly touch on that. They have their own places where the product groups go ahead and post blogs over there. They're giving updates over there. There's other few places. I know Todd Baginski, he's another MVP. He does the Power Apps community place over there. They're talking a bunch over there. Power Addicts, which are not gone around the world, they do a monthly view over there. Go ahead and attend those sessions. There's a lot of places to get this type of information, easy, at your own convenience. You have full access to it. Just be updated on all of that. And then finally, maintain healthy relationships with your Azure admins and your Dynamics 365 team, or the admins over there, because this is going to be very critical to make sure that you've got everything you need from the Power Apps platform standpoint over there. And then your applications are so closely tied in from the Azure standpoint, from the Dynamics 365 standpoint, but maintain healthy relationships. Understand what are the things going on. Are they working on certain projects which might potentially affect your platform over there? Or you doing certain things over there which might require their assistance? Things like that are very, very important. So maintain healthy relationships over there. Okay, so that is my definition of an innovative administrator's requirements type of a thing. Again, this may or may not work for you. You can add some, remove some, but kind of work with these as a friendly guidelines. So I'm going to cover a whole bunch today. Some of it I'll go through fast, some of it I'll slow down a little bit, but these are all in all the 10 things I want to cover over here. And most of you may have seen some of these, some of you may have seen, a good version of them, but I'll still go ahead and cover this entire, list over here. Because for some of you, the administrative standpoint or Power Apps or Power Platform might be a whole separate new topic altogether. So it's best that I go through all of these. All right, so let's go to the first one, which is DLP, or data loss protection. When it comes to DLP, I literally use the KISS method, and I separate it based on Microsoft and non-Microsoft. Some of you may be saying, hey, Dan, what is this KISS method? And this is my favorite one. KISS, or KISS, stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. You might have heard this and used in many different scenarios over there, but this is basically the whole process that I follow through. So let me show you. Let me pause on the slide deck and let me actually jump in to the DLP section over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming over here to my test environment, and I've logged in as Power Apps, remember, as a Power Platform admin, and I've logged in over here. Now I'm going to go to the top right to the settings. I'm coming into, make sure I'm on the correct one. Yeah. On the admin center over here. In the admin center on the left side, you will see data policies. So when I go to the data policies, it opens up another tab over there. And here, if I've selected the correct tenant, it's loading up, not the correct one. So let me jump over to somewhere else, Power Platform admin. I have so many tenants that I got to make sure I bounce around from one place to the other one. Let me check over here as well. Admin center, one of them has to have it. So what I'm doing is first I got to make sure that I have the Power Platform admin, and that's another important thing is you got to have that admin, because you will not be able to see this. You will be able to come to the admin center. You may not be able to see this. All right, so I'm here. I'm in the data policy sections over there, and the data loss prevention policy. Now, remember I said that use that KISS method, which is keep it simple, stupid, and I said Microsoft versus non-Microsoft. This is what I meant. So I come in over here, I click on the new policy, and when I click on it, you actually create this option. The first place is you get the flexibility to do, or is it creating this policy for all environments, only a selected environments, or is it going to be an apply or exception for certain environments? Now, two things I want to say. Before your company even jumps into Power Apps, adopts it, whatever is your current situation, you've got to make sure your DLP is set up over here, because this is your first line of defense. Your citizen developers will just go ahead and start building some fantastic apps, and it is their job to build these apps. They will start leveraging connectors that they already need, but this is where you go ahead and secure those connectors over there. So like I said, whether your company is already pushing forward with Power Apps, or you're thinking about Power Apps, or you've just started doing it, whatever situation you are in, go ahead and set up these DLPs over here. I first recommend that use it, apply it to all environments. And in the all environments, go ahead and do the Microsoft versus the non-Microsoft, because that's the easiest way to go ahead and do that. So I've gone show some examples over here. In the Microsoft way over here, as you can see, all of these are basically Microsoft stuff over here. Anywhere from big data, backend data center connectors such as SharePoint, OneDrive, Azure SQL, Common Data Services, All of those big ones I've already put over here. But you also need key things, right? You need the Azure AD over here. You need the common data services, any HTTP connections to Azure AD, Office 365 for message over there. Approvals is another big one. And then for those people who are already leveraging Dynamics 365 solutions and they want to go ahead and start leveraging Flow for that, well, go ahead and add all 4 of those connectors over here. But that's basically what I'm doing. It is also securing your data, because for some reason, you have a scenario where you could have, a SharePoint list or a CDS entity or a SQL table with some company confidential information over here. Now, by default, if you haven't set up these connectors, then what somebody could do is actually build a flow over here, take information from any of these company connectors over there, and potentially tweet about it. Because Twitter connector is an out-of-the-box connector available. And if you haven't set up this DLP, then all of these connectors by default stand over here. And one of the connectors available is Twitter, which means you've now allowed any of your data connectors to be connected or allowed to take that data and post it on social media over there. So that can be a serious violation of your own, Personal Privacy Act over there. So kind of do this something simple, set it up, keep it simple. That way you've already secured it. Now, if you've got a communications department, advertising department, and they literally want to do this for a valid reason, that they want to have some posts, announcements put on either a SharePoint list, CDS, or Azure SQL, and once the posts are saved over there, they want the tweets to go out on Twitter. In that case, just create a separate environment for them. And then for that environment, create a separate DLP policy where they are allowing these 2 connectors, which any of these backend connectors and Twitter, part of the same thing, and it goes ahead and works over there. So there's exceptions over there as well. But all in all, just go with the KISS method over here. Go ahead and keep it simple, and it really works. But this has got to be one of the first things any Power Platform admin has to be done. Well, second thing, remember, first one, get the Power Platform admin access, then go ahead and set up this DLP over here. All right, let's go ahead and jump back to the slide deck. So in the slide deck, we went through the DLP over here. Next is access to create environments. Now, this is different. One of the things to create the environments, and I'll show you what that is, you need these 2 things over there. First of all, besides the fact that Power Platform admins have access to do this, there's 2 other people who have access to do this as well. Dynamics 365 admins, and also your Office 365 global admins. So all in all, it just doesn't tie to the Power Platform admins having this access level. But it also has these other 2 people, the global admins and the Dynamics 365. They have options to create this. Now, I'll quickly pause and say why the Dynamics 365 is because Dynamics 365 also uses the same underground storage place, which is Common Data Service. Power Platform and the Power Platform CDS and the Dynamics 365 CDS is the exact same thing. So remember that when they have admin level access, they see all the CDSs, they see all the environments that you see in the Power Platform admins. And it just makes sense because the underground data storage, which is Common Data Service, is the exact same. So that's why, if any of you are thinking that, hey, I understand global admins having access, but why Dynamics 365? Is because the underground platform is the exact same. The underground CDS is the exact same. That's why they have that. And then consider allowing trial environments. Let me actually switch over and show you what that means. So I've come over here to the, let's go back to the Power Platform, Power Apps over here. I come over here, I click on, go to the settings, click on the Admin Center, and I come to the Admin Center over here. Without touching anything, now you go to the top right over here on the settings, and you click on the Power Platform settings. Now, in the Power Platform settings, by default, these are the 2 things. They are, everyone has access to create production environments, and everyone has access to create trial environments. Again, it's completely up to you. My recommendation is that go ahead and change in this governance for the production environments, go ahead and change that to just the specific admins. This one, it is up to you. You can go ahead and change that to the specific admins. I'm okay with both ways. I would, change that to specific admins. And if you keep that as trial environments for everyone, it actually doesn't affect a whole lot because the thing about trial environments is they only last for 30 days. So if you have, environment level accesses, or you have people who are your Power Apps champions, and I'll touch on that in the end. these champions, you want to give them that flexibility that, hey, let them go ahead and create a trial environment, because trial environment doesn't affect any of my capacity. And after 30 days, it does get deleted. So again, it is completely up to you and the level of security that you want. But you can, my recommendations for the production environments, go ahead and change that to only specific admins. Trial environments, completely up to you. You can also make that to specific environments. I can allow that for everyone, but just think it through. These are basically what I recommend over here. So that was basically on the access to the environments over there. So let's now jump into point number 3. And that's what I was saying over here. The option that I missed was it's important to maintain capacities, because the moment you start creating more and more production environments and you start going ahead and having more apps created, and if they use CDSs, then that's affecting your production, your capacity over there. So keep that in mind. That's why I say for the production one, change that to admins only. Trial, completely up to you. So Office 365 security groups, and this is a very, very important thing. Now, and I want to first mention, it's a thing, remember, I'm saying Office 365 security groups, because there is different types of groups over there. I'm specifically talking about Office 365 security groups. Now, there are, and you will hear this in blogs, you will hear people talk about that, is use Azure AD groups, and that's actually the exact same thing. In fact, I have heard a lot of products, Microsoft product group people recommend that set up your security groups in Azure AD because they automatically get synchronized. I mean, they automatically get created on the Office 365 side as well. So it's the same thing, but this is tied only to the security groups. Now, you can do the security groups at 2 levels. You can do it at the environment level, or you can do it at the app level. You can even go ahead and do it both levels, where you've got a security group to give people access to the environment, and then you, in those environments, when you go and build the apps, you can go ahead and add the security groups to the apps. Now remember, the more level of permissions, granular level permissions that you add, the more difficulty there is to administer it, because now you got to worry about 2 things. Are people part of this group? Or then once they're in, and if they've already got access to the environment, but they're not able to look at the app, that's because they need to be part of this group as well. So think it through. If you work for a company which does require granular level permissions, then you have this option. You've got 2 levels of security groups over there. But if you want that, you know what, this environment is only accessible to, say, some financial department or some HR sales department, then just give a security group access only to the environment level, because in there, people, the makers, can go in and build their apps, and then the makers are responsible for who has access to their own app. So you've got flexibility. But I just wanted to show you this option over there. So let's go ahead and take a look at that quickly. So I have now come over here, and in my app, in the environment, I'm just going to click on the environment. Don't go and click on open environment or settings, just click on this one over here. What it does is it takes you to this page. Now, if you are doing this for the first time, you will realize this is what I'm seeing over here. And that is because by default, no security group is applied to an environment. So what you do is you come over here, and again, key thing, you got to be a Power Platform admin to do this. There's got to be an environment set up over here. And then when you come to the environment, just click on it. Don't hit the radio button, the radio button over here, and don't do any of this clicking on the environment or the settings. Just click on the link to your environment. It comes up over here. And then now, once you're doing that, just click on edit. And in the edit, you see these things over here. You can go ahead and assign a security group. And obviously, this was a bad example because this is the default one. Actually, it could be a good example, because if in case somebody of you who's for the first time looking at Power Apps and taking a look at admin, the default environment, and you will always see the name and the parenthesis default. You cannot apply any security groups for your default groups over there. In your security groups, everybody is a maker, which means everybody has access to build the apps. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Again, once an app is built, not everybody has access to the app. Only the makers of the apps have access to it, and they can go and share people, users for the app. So it's not, scary. It's not unsecure. But what I've seen is the default one is kind of like the playground. Build your apps and everything. But then when you want to go ahead and separate it, either department or the use case scenario, that's when you start creating those groups over there. So I'll actually switch to my personal tenant. And yep, in my personal tenant, now when I come over here, I click on environments. you can see that I've got a few environments over here. And right over here, see, I've got my own default one over here. So when I click on that, same thing happens, what I just showed you. Click over here, the environment details loads up. When I click on edit, I get the exact same thing. Can't be assigned to this environment because it is the default one. But when I go back to the environment over here and I go and pick on, say, a production one, okay, I've tagged this as my production one. Click over here on my production one. And over here, you will see that I've actually assigned a security group. I call that as the Power Apps Prod Environment SG security group. So I click over here, and now there is a security group added. So I can go ahead and just show you that it actually, searches through. I can go ahead and search any of the security groups that I've added. I can also go ahead and remove that one over here. All right, that's again at the environment level. App level, it is pretty easy and straightforward. I basically come to the app over here. I can go ahead and click on share. And in this share, I've actually gone ahead and used, in this case, the same security group. But you could go ahead and say Power Apps, Prod, Environment, and name the app over there. You can do it at that level. All right. So that's basically how you set up the permissions on that. Okay, let's keep moving forward. So security roles and permissions. Now I actually kind of already touched this a little bit already, but the security roles and the permissions do two things, and this is very critical, especially when you're using things such as, the CDS entities in the back end, because what happens is you need especially when your app is adding data over there, you need the option to go ahead and have the read level and then the write level over there. But then you also want to tie just to that app where people cannot go ahead and create any other apps and flows and entities over there. So there is that level of rows and permissions over there. Now, permissions I actually just showed you, but there's one little thing which I saved it just for this area over here. And that is, let me jump over, see which one it was. So we were opening up this one app. That's not here. Let me jump. Oh, yep, this app over here. So when I clicked on the app to share it, if you didn't notice, it came up with the sign. So share this app implicitly, sharing this app implicitly shares at least one connection, blah, blah, blah. Implicitly shared connections are shared with the same audience on the app. So that's what it is telling you, is that when I went ahead and put in that user over to share it with, it is also sharing the data connector over there. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, a common question I've got over here is that, Daniel, I went ahead and shared this app, which means now they have access to the data center. Can they go ahead and create their own apps and move my data into their personal tenants and all of that stuff? The answer to that is yes and no. Yes is, no is because if you're just giving it to the users, then they only have access to that connectors over there when they are using the app. And the access they have is only to see it and edit it or delete it in the app. They do not see the connectors. So don't get too concerned about that. They're only able to see it for that. But if you go ahead and add somebody, I'm going to just click on confirm. Now, if I go ahead and add, if I go ahead and add somebody over here and make that person as a co-owner or the co-author, then that co-author does have access to all your connections as well, which means he or she could potentially build his or her own app as well. So kind of keep that in mind. As your co-owners, co-authors, they do have that elevated access level. They do have access to creating those apps over there because they have access to those connectors. Another thing which you can do for the users is once they're using it, the first time they open up to the app, it will say that, hey, you're going to be using this app, you're going to use this connectors, and just ask you for an approval. That only happens once when they first open the app. However, if you want to take that away so that end users don't get confused, there's a PowerShell to do that as well. But that pop-up comes only once, just telling the end users that these are the connectors that you're going to use. Nothing to be concerned about. The end users don't need to be concerned about. But if they do get alarmed for whatever reason, they can go ahead and, you as a maker of the app can go ahead and just run that PowerShell so that pop-up doesn't come over there. One thing I also want to talk about is specifically for the CDS places over there, you can actually go ahead and take a look at all the connections. So this is a good place. Remember when I came over here and I was showing you the security groups? You can come over here now to open environments. When I click on the open environment, it takes me directly into the Dynamics 365 side over here. And actually, it's the settings. So I come to the settings, it opens up the settings, and there is users plus permissions. So I click on that, and I can go to security roles. Now, security roles is a very interesting place because by default in many of the blogs, even on the documentations, they always say to use the system administrator, which is completely fine, especially for the makers or the environment level admins. But over here, you can actually go ahead and now click on that system administrator, and you can see how you can actually how these roles are set up. What level of access do they have? So as it loads over here, you will see a couple of tabs right on the top over there. We will go to the tab all the way to the right. See, there's details, core records, services, etc. Custom entities. This is where it shows you that when you assign that role, this is all the level of access that you have. Now, besides the level of access, it also shows all level of entities, and entities usually show up way at the bottom over here. So if you've got a lot of entities, this is where they show up. But this is actually a good place because what I have myself done. And again, recommendations are the ways I do things. I come over here, and then in the more actions, you can go ahead and copy the role. So you've already got a base one to work with, and then you can go ahead and kind of tweak your permissions, or tweak your permissions to say, I want to create a role for users just to have access to those CDSs because that CDS is going to store some personal information, whatever, something which is important. So you can make it very granular over here. Or you can just go ahead and leave it as open as this, and it doesn't have it worry. But I want to show you what options you have to go ahead and leverage these security roles over here. And I also showed you how you can do those permissions. All right, so it's kind of making a little sense over here of how much responsibilities and how many excellent cool things you can do with the admins, because you've got a lot of potential stuff which is already available for the admins in the back end. And I'm showing you real life scenarios over here. All right, so let's keep moving forward. So we looked at security roles and permissions, stuff like that. Now, know your capacity. Know your capacity is very helpful in planning for the future, and it helps in DLP. What do I mean by capacity? So capacity is actually a very interesting point over here, because at the end of the day, these apps or these flows and things like that are being stored somewhere. So you need to know how much are they consuming and what all is going on. So in my personal tenant over here, I've come in and I'm going to go into the, let me get off from, I'll actually get off from here, get off from there, come back over here, go to the admin center. And again, you need to have that Power Platform admin. In fact, you're going to be hearing me say that again and again. So I've come to the admin over here. And now in the analytics, you click on the drop down, this is it, capacity. And I love this from an administrator standpoint, because in one view, the Power Platform product groups have actually provided this role over here. So you can actually see that I'm actually exceeding my storage capacity over here. Because if you think about it, and if you don't already know, your CDS or your apps and everything is actually, you think stored as one solution as the app, but in the back end, it's actually stored as 3 different places. It is broken down into the database, it is broken down into the file, which is actual file type attachments, and then logs over there. And they're actually stored in 3 different places as well. Amazing. There's actually a separate session on that, which was explained of how these data centers data are stored and what their functionalities are. They've done a remarkable job of breaking down the databases and files and logs into 3 separate, really powerful Azure services tools over there. But this is what you as an admin needs to monitor. So that, hey, my file, so far in my environment, there's not a whole lot of files like images, documents, whatever. They're not being stored. So we are good on file storage. Logging is good, but man, there is a lot of data which is being stored. And so based on that, it also even tells you which environment is consuming the most. It goes ahead and even talks about the storage capacity. So we know that the prod had the most. So I'm going to click on the prod, and now it's able to give me a total breakdown of where that information, the capacity is coming from, right down for all of them. File usage, storage. This is out of the box functionality that is available over there. And so you need to know your capacity because it will also help from the DLP standpoint. Remember, when you have different environments, the DLP standpoint is actually from where all are these connectors coming from, and then are those secured connectors or outside the connectors? and then what is the root cause of some of the data coming in and what the connectors are involved over there. So it helps from both of them. Bottom line is you need to be responsible for the capacity, and this is a great place to come and view over here and take a look at what's going on. So, and again, remember, this is out of the box. So options to disable self-service. So let's pause and talk about what the self-service is, and then we'll talk about how it works. So self-service was a functionality that was provided, and there was actually both opinions I saw on that. So what is self-service? So self-service is where you as a user can go ahead and assign buy a license for yourself, an Office 365 license, whatever it is, a Power Apps Plan 1 or a Plan 2. You can go ahead and buy that for yourself. And then what that does is it gives you the option and it creates an environment directly for you. And then you are the full owner of that environment and you can go and build apps. Now, one set of people were really alarmed by that. So if it's an enterprise level company, they should not have that functionality where end users can pull out their credit card, go ahead and buy their own environment using the self-service capability over there. Microsoft does a really good job accepting feedback from the end users, and they got a lot of feedback on that. And they said, okay, we'll provide an option. They went ahead and provided two options. First of all, the Power Platform admins can see all the environments, even those which are due by the end users. And secondly, is they provided a PowerShell script to disable that functionality. So that way, Microsoft was able to make both the people happy. And let me focus more on the need for self-service because there are legitimate reasons for that. Imagine a company which is an umbrella company and they've got sub-companies below it. The umbrella company might just buy the basic Office 365 package for all their sub-companies over there. Now the sub-company they still have to abide by the umbrella company's licenses, but they themselves now using things like that can go ahead and buy more licenses for their Power Platform users over there. So it does work really well. So there is a legitimate, valid reason for that. And then those who are in the enterprise level, financial services, healthcare services who are concerned about this, you also have the option to go ahead and disable that using PowerShell. The key thing I want to point out is that remember the first thing I showed right at the beginning, the DLP, that DLP will even factor in the self-service environments. Because remember the one I said, that keep it simple, stupid technique, it is for all the environments. So anytime somebody's bought their self-service license and they create an environment, it by default falls under that policy we created. So now you see, as I said, that the first thing an admin needs to do is go check their DLP, set it up, use the KISS technique, go set it up. Because if such a scenario doesn't happen, you're good. Your security is already set up, your DLP is already set up over there. All right, so just wanted to call this one out. Okay, now we just jump into some of the newer things that you may not have already heard. One is the Azure Application Insights. So the Azure Application Insights is actually only 2 months old. We are in April right now, and this was only announced in February. So what it does is pretty sweet. It does give you the flexibility to add more log telemetry to your apps to get more insight. Now, let me actually talk a little bit more, because before we jump into the Azure, the log telemetry for your apps using Azure Application Insights, we need to talk a little bit about what is this Azure Application Insights. So it is part of the entire Azure Monitor service, and that is a whole separate discussion altogether. And it is a massive piece of tool which is available in part of your Azure services. And what it does is it's able to monitor all of these applications, operating systems, Azure resources, subscriptions, all of this. And one of the neat things that it does is it takes things such as insights, analysis, integration, and it stores it in two kind of separate types of databases. One section captures all the metrics, other sections captures all these logs. So when it's already capturing all of this data. It's got the functionality to capture all of this data. You need to go ahead and set this up into your app. And that's basically how, once you've done that, application performance management goes ahead and captures things using the application insight. It plugs into the app, and I'll show you how I've done that. You go ahead and take that insight. It's basically just a hex code key. You take that key, you go and add it to the app, and Power Apps is built to handle this. You don't have any coding to do in the Power Apps. In fact, when the app opens up, and I'll show you that, there is just a place that you go and get that key, put it in the app, and it's already starting to capture a whole lot. I'll show you that. But the beauty about Application Insights is it goes ahead and captures all of this information over here, alerts, It's able to go ahead and take that and give you the functionality to add that into Power BI. It is capturing all of this. So all in all, these are some of the things that you can capture. It captures rates, the rates of requests, response times, failures, gives you page views and load performances, gives you users and session counts, performance counters. But the key thing that I pointed over here is that we already have the analytics available in the Power Apps. In fact, I showed you some of those, right? When I was in the, in fact, let me jump into one app over here. So let me go to my production tenant. So here is a very good app. When I click on it, there is something called analytics, and it's in preview phase. So when I click on that, out of the box, it has some kind of logging already available. And you can see, we are able to see it in the Power BI. These are Power BI reports that I didn't build. It is out of the box available. So it's showing me things such as usage, performance, location. It is pretty sweet. It does go from what devices were used, how many times the apps were updated, what was the counties, the countries and the regions. This is all out of the box functionalities over here. Same thing from performances, it's available. There's one little thing that I've noticed over here is it captures it app level. Now, what if you have, when I say app level, is it just shows the entire app, that if that, for this app which Daniel has made for compare large data sets over there, it captures the whole thing about the app, is how many times the first screen was open over there, how many times, what was the length of the app usage over here, the sessions, all at the app level. Now, say you have an app that is used at the enterprise level, and that app has a whole bunch of screens, it has a whole bunch of subsections to it, clicking and all of that. Maybe it has multiple data sources and all that, and you want to know, get log telemetry inside the app level. Well, this doesn't provide that, and that's why going ahead and the log telemetry really performs up, gives you that performance. So what I did was actually show you as an example over here. So here is that same example. I've come over here, I'm opening, I go and open up the app. This app can be used from different places. It can be used from the desktop standpoint. It can be used from the tablet standpoint. In fact, I had a blog on this one as well, so you are welcome to go and look at that blog. By the way, I've done a detailed blog on Azure log telemetry, so that walks you through how to even set this up. So if you're interested in this, go check that out, because I've explained it more in detail. Because here I'm just giving you kind of a overview. So we've gone ahead and I've got an app over there. In my log telemetry, this is basically what it is. Let me go outside first. And when you come over here to your Azure service, you've got something called Application Insights. It is an Azure service already available. If you don't see it over here, come into your Azure, just search for Application Insights, and then it you pick that up over here. Once you create an application insight, and you can use whatever subscription that you want, either you build it or you can reach out to your Azure admin to go build it. The key thing is this one over here, the Azure instrumentation key. That is the key that you want. And then after you've done that, you come to your app, you edit it, which means you've got to be either the app owner or the co-owner. And this is what I was saying, is that they've made this simple, is that now I've got the key. I don't have to come in and do any coding or any, make any connections or anything. I'll show you. The app is opening up right when the app opens up at the app level, not at the screen level, but at the app level. I click over here, and you've got this functionality, is that instrumentation key. You basically just take that key and you paste it over here, and that's it. You're done. And then it starts capturing all of this information. So let me show you. Now when I come in over here, it does some fantastic things. Let me show you in the application mapping area over here. It's capturing all the number of views that I've done. When I go ahead and scroll down, in the one that I wanted to talk about was also in the logging. Logging is one of my personal favorite ones, because now I can go ahead and see all the history over here, and it picks up some amazing stuff. Tells me right down to what time did the user log in. Even tells me what was the location available. Was it a phone? Was it something else? iOS version over here tells me location. Granted, some of this was already picked up, but I can go ahead and export this data. And in the export functionality, it has the option to export as a Power BI query, which means I can directly just go into Power BI and import that data, and for the first time, build your own reports, which is not available right out of the box. This gives you the functionality to do that. All right, so I want to come over here and look at the user flows. And there's so much more which I've talked about in my blog, so check that out. But I really could not leave without showing this over here. So this is fantastic. I mean, I already have spoken to people and people have said, I'm going to start doing this now because check this out. In here, you've got now the functionality to see inside the app level, what is the flow. So the session of the app starts, it goes to the intro screen, because that's how I build my app. And then it shows you what has been the flow. And as you can see, based on the thickness of this pipe, of this one over here, this one over here, this one, it's basically saying that, Daniel, right now your app and all the screens in it are actually being used in a pretty efficient way, which means for the future, you can actually say this app is being used and everything is good. But if you actually started seeing some screens where the pipeline is really thin, this helps you to understand, man, that screen's not even being used a whole lot, which means I could potentially think about two things, either deleting that screen altogether, but if there's important data or information in that screen, take the links or information from there and move it to all the other places, because that's where most traffic is going on. Remember, this is fantastic because it shows you information that's not available on out of the box over here. So the telemetry information at this detail level with such ease that you didn't have to do any coding whatsoever, it does it out of the box, is fantastic. So my recommendation is, if you have any of those enterprise levels or any apps that you think are most important, constantly need to be monitored to improve the performance and the user interface for the app over there and the user experience of the app, this is the way to do it, because now you firsthand learn how the traffic is going in the app, what are the most useful screens over there, how long are those screens being affected, things like that. This is the way to do it over there. I think it's pretty cool. All right.
Daniel, 15 minutes remaining.
Excellent. Thanks for that update. Okay, so basically this was on the application inside over there. We went ahead and talked about the whole log telemetry system on that side. Gives you the functionality to apply it to an existing Power Apps, because that's important. Remember, I had talked about that app which I had already built. That app was built months ago, but that doesn't mean that I have to rebuild the app. I just went into the app insights, got that key, opened up the app, and I was able to add that over there. And then I was able to go ahead and view that data, and I showed that I could go ahead and actually export that data, which was already pre-built for Power BI, and just import that into Power BI. One thing I want to point about is you're not importing the entire data, because when you export that from application insights, it just imports the connection strings for you. The data still sits in the application insights, but that connection string with all those tables and everything is automatic, something you don't have to write a full query for that in Power BI. It automatically goes and creates all of that. Okay, and the requirements for the application insights, these are the things you need to have on Azure services over there. And there's different ones. Things that, when you're just testing it, there's two options. You can do the free version over there, or you can do the pay-as-you-go. The pay-as-you-go, that's the, the billing capacity over there. You will need to have app owners for, access to the Azure application side services. And then somebody needs to be the owner or the co-owner of the app, because you've got to open up the app and you've got to add that key over there. All right, so I've covered a lot on technical stuff. I've covered a lot on things that you need to know from an administrative standpoint. But now I want to spend a few minutes talking about how the admins, remember, the admins are also a type of managers. They are not like the citizen developers who are just focused on one or two of the apps. Admins need to do an overview of all the apps. So a couple of things that I want the admins to know is we talked about the admin center and the analytics. Remember, I showed you an example of two things, the capacity one over there, how we can see all your capacity for the data storage. That's in the admin center in the analytics section over there. Other things you can do is you also already got in the flow section over there. There are a couple of flows which are available. If you actually go to Power Automate and you search for admin flows, it's a full-blown admin flow over there. It'll just ask you where, what is your environment, what is your connections and everything. And that flow will go ahead and send information to you either on a daily or weekly basis of how many new connectors have been built, how many new flows have been built, how many new Power Apps have been built. It gives that keeps that admins proactive on all these new things that are coming in. And that's a free tool which is available out of the box over there. XRM Toolbox is a really cool thing. It's also free. Let me show you one really quick. So you can go ahead and basically download this XRM from Microsoft. Now it was called XRM Toolbox from Microsoft Dynamics 365 initially, but it's also for Power Apps common data service over there. So it is the exact same thing or similar to, when you go into your Dynamics 365 and you see all the permissions over there for apps level, it does something simple, but it really performs that in a much easier way. So I'll show you an example. By the way, this tool is absolutely free. And when you go ahead and make, and there's so many different options over here. Right, if I go to the tools section, there's a whole bunch of options that you can do, including things such as, key thing is you can get timestamps of when the apps were created, all of that. But admins can really benefit from this. And I want to show you one, which is called the user security management. When I build a connection to this, I just had to go to the environment. In the environment, you basically get that GUID, the Dynamics 365. It usually goes as 0, 8, EED, something like that. So that's what I put in over here. I'm logged in, and I'm going to do the load users. So when I do the load users, it is directly getting live data from CRM, which is your CDS over here. Now, when I click on any of the user, it is telling me that this user, Alan, already has access to that environment over there. In that environment, he or she is already got the system administrator role over there, and so on and so forth. Diego over here, Diego has access to that environment, but he's not a system administrator. What he is, he's got this role which is assigned over there. That could be the security role that I just talked about, and then it also tells me other things for every other users over there. I love this one place because in one view, I'm able to see all the users. I'm able to go and see all the roles, including the custom roles that we might have set up. See over here, and then in one view, I'm able to go and see how this, what access everybody has with it. It's really simple, and it's free. So keep that in mind. All right. So we talked about the CRM toolbox and the Center of Excellence. Now, Center of Excellence, for most of you who it's a very popular thing, but it was a tool that was provided and built as a collaboration with the Power Platform tool, Power team, they were called the CATS team, with end users, power users. They collaborated together and made the Center of Excellence. So what is the Center of Excellence? It is actually a tool to help you make your Power Apps even more excellent by gathering all this data. And they've used a combination of three things. They've used Flow to capture all the data, and data, which is really important. Second thing is it goes ahead and saves it in CDS. So you go ahead and create that CDS entities over there. And then third is it has given you a really powerful Power BI report to show you all of that. And they've made this as easy and to use because they've provided you the flows. They've already provided you the CDS entities. So basically you just import that. And good thing is, for those of you who know, they provide it as a solution. So when you import a solution, it imports everything in. It goes ahead and imports the CDS stuff. It goes and imports the apps and the flows and everything. So let me all in all show you what that kind of looks like. Here is once you import it in, these are the two things. It'll create these two apps over here, the DLP editor, the DLP customizer. From the flow standpoint, it comes in as solutions. So when I see over here, going to the Power Apps, I click on Home, click on My Flows. I don't see it over here because it's a solution. So what I do, I have come over here to the solution, and then in my solution, I'm able to see the ones for Center of Excellence. I click on that, and I can see all my flows that are related to this, and it's just all available out of the box. You don't have to go ahead and build this. You just go and search for that Center of Excellence. But the beauty is, after moment your flows are done, connected, run, they automatically start running. They are pulling in data after data. They're going to store it in CDS, and your data gets presented this way. I mean, it is amazing. That Power BI report is pulling data from all the CDS things. It tells you about the number of environments you are. It tells you the top app makers too, and I'm going to keep that in mind because I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So it's telling you who are the top makers over there. Gives you overviews of your flows over here, top flow makers, big flows which are running across the different cities over there. And then you can go ahead and get more insight into the environments. You can get more insight into the apps, flows, custom connectors, things like that. My recommendation is that once you start having a lot of these apps created or flows created, go ahead and create this following the details that they've already provided in the documentations. One key detail is create an environment and then pull all of this information, everything into that environment, because it creates its own security roles and things like that. But once you see that there is good traffic and activity going on in your Power Platform, especially Power Apps and Flows, get this thing set up. And now, I personally think now is a better time because they've come up with an updated version of this. So there were some, bugs in the first version, but they fixed all of that. So you can go ahead and import that in, and then you can tweak this to match your company designing and branding. But I highly recommend that if you see activity now, steady activity and growth, get this set up. The Center of Excellence is perfect for the admins piece over there. And so we talked about the free tools, PowerShell scripts. There's a whole bunch of them which is available, which can help you automate some stuff. And then there are some things which may not be available from the UI standpoint. Remember the one I talked about, the self-service creation, the self-service environment creation? That's a PowerShell script. And they've provided a whole different module of the Power Apps scripts, so you can go ahead and do that as well. And these are all free, all right? So nothing to be worried about. Free training for Power Platform admins. Now, the free training is a self-paced training. And remember, I kind of briefly touched on this in the beginning. The two that I highly recommend is one, the admins should go through an app in the day, so they get the experience of how to build the apps. Second thing is go through the admin in the day. One of the things that I like about the admin in the day was they have even factored in a scenario that, hey, you are a new admin and there's already apps created in your tenant. How do you handle that? The admin in the day factors that in as well. And the great thing is these are self-paced. So you download them and it's in the link over here, or you can just go and search or Bing for that. So you download it and do it in your own test environment and play with it, but kind of get familiar with that because it's really important, especially the admin in the day, to get familiar with that. So this is a self-training that's already applied over there. And then finally, I want to talk about rewarding the champions. So remember in the COE or Center of Excellence, it showed you the top app makers and it showed you the top flow makers. Now you've got information about who are the top people. Take that information and go look at the apps. See how they build the apps. Are they good with all their, their connectors over there? Is everything working fine? How are their apps being performed over there? You can go ahead and even do more app insights. But once you find these key people who are building fantastic apps, also following some good protocols and building the apps, make them the champions. Share some information with them about future things you are doing in your company so that they have the information. They can go ahead and talk to their line of businesses about that. They can actually go and take their skills and go and help somebody else in their department who can be a future app maker over there. And that really helps. So there's a good relationship that you are, as an admin, you are building with those Power Apps makers over there, because they're going to help you. If they are following all the good protocols to build successful and safe apps, both from security and compliance and from performance, they will share that intel with the other potential app makers so that everybody else also follows this process over there. Engage them to be talkative on your internal social media, such as Teams or Yammers, to share all the information over there. That way, they don't have to keep explaining that again and again. They've already got conversations in Teams and Yammers, and they can go ahead and build all that stuff over there. So I highly, highly recommend to start this Champions program in your own company. That COE, the Center of Excellence, shows you already. It makes it easier. It shows you the top app makers, top flow makers. Reach out to them, have conversations, let them start being talkative, and it's going to be a really important that they're taking a lot of load off you from the admin side as well. They can actually almost be your level one support, because they can already know that, oh, tell the other new users that you're running into this problem because you did something wrong this way. Don't call the admins. I'll show you. They're going to help you out. So build that really good relationships over there. So all in all, these were the 10 things that I wanted to cover today. We covered a lot. I know it was a lot for you to absorb, but my point was to kind of give you these little tidbits here and there as the Power Apps, the Power Portal administrators, because this is a responsibility you're going to take up. I'm showing you all the different options that you have. I'm showing you a bunch of functionalities that you have available and your responsibility. Okay, I see things blinking over there. So let's see. Any questions coming up?
Great, Daniel. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. Yeah, we have some questions, so we'll get started now straight away. We're a bit short on time, but let's just rattle through some here. Okay, data policy is useless. If a user wants, he or she can ship data out using a SharePoint connector. We need a way to block a connector.
So there is a way to do that. One of the things is obviously make it as a non-business one. But if you want to really block a connector, you got to put in a ticket for that. What you do is you put it in your non-business side first, so that's blocked, and then you put in a ticket, and you got to explain really clearly what is it that you want to block in that from that connector. But one of the first things you want to do, and I've seen this done before as well a few times, but especially the large enterprise companies, is you go ahead and distinguish the two from a business to a non-business, put it in the non-business side, and then you go ahead and submit that request is that I want these non-businesses ones, because right now they can't just take a single connector and block it. They can block it at the non-business level over there. So kind of keep that in mind, that there's no full way to do that, but there is functionalities, at least of the business and non-business, because non-business doesn't actually block it. It just makes sure that the two are not connected, like puts like almost a guard or a fence over there. But you can take it to the next level by putting in that ticket and say, hey, I want to block these non-connector ones over there. And they should be able to do that. But you got to put that in as a ticket. There is no one place in the admin center to go or click on any settings. You got to put in a ticket for that.
Okay. You mentioned SharePoint to Twitter, which is fine. What about SharePoint to SharePoint cross-tenant?
Same thing. You got to put in a ticket for that, because I've seen that scenario as well. It's from a SharePoint to SharePoint. The connectors don't really check to see if one SharePoint for a flow from copying one list to another list. As long as it's SharePoint, it is good. But if those two SharePoints are on two separate tenants, it doesn't capture that. What you can do is you can put in a ticket for that and say that the two things you want to say, I want to capture any of this which is going from my tenant to somebody else's tenant, and you got to emphasize, and vice versa. You want to block somebody from outside tenant coming over here. That way you are already safe. Nothing is going out from your tenant over there. You can put in that ticket as well. What happens is you put in the ticket, they'll reach out to you, make sure that everybody's on the same page, and then they'll do that. But you don't have any setting on the environment side to do that. You've got to put in a ticket for that.
Okay. When you were showing the app, the question is, what if the app had a premium connector? How does that work? And do you have to extend the license for all the new users?
The answer is yes. And the premium connector, like Azure SQL is an example. It is a premium connector. And it's not just the maker who needs that access, the user also needs that access over there. So yes, everybody will need that. Now remember, not everybody needs the plan 2. Plan 1 will be sufficient as well. So you got to factor that in, you got to plan that in. And yes, if it's any of those premium connectors, then you and the users will also need that license.
Okay, which role is needed to be able to edit the owners of one of Power Apps?
Which role is needed to edit the apps? I think, if I'm understanding correctly, you will need to be the co-owner. That way, you also have access to the apps and the functions. You need the co-owner. Now, co-owners can be done individually, or you can create a group for that, but you need a co-owner. Now, that brings up a good point, is because my recommendation is that every app should have, by default, it'll have the app maker, but you got to have the co-owner as well, because what if the app maker wins the lottery and leaves? You have somebody in the co-owner. Another follow-up question to that I get is, how do I make myself as the primary app maker? Because I'm always going to be the co-owner. And you can do that too, as well, using a PowerShell script. There's part of that module that I talked about, the PowerShell module. You run that script, and it will take the co-owner and make that as the primary owner.
Okay. Second last question. Is it possible to block end users from accessing CDS in the default environment?
Yes, they're in the default environment. Right now, I can't think of anything right now, because by default, everybody's a maker, and everybody is, so you can use it, or which means potentially they can even build CDS tenants. I really can't think of anything right now. But remember, this is your kind of your playground environment over there. What you can do is be proactive. Just check to see your capacity over there, but you really can't block somebody from the default at all. That's why it's more important of thinking of now how to block it. It's more important to think from how I can be proactive and start seeing where all the capacity is being used, what app, what user, and start being proactive over there. I know it's not the answer you're looking for, but I'm giving you a place that think about not think about being proactive.
And last question, it goes, hi Daniel, your explanations are awesome as always. How do we get the COE solution? I do not see it in the app source.
Yeah, it's so go ahead and Bing or search for Center of Excellence. The great place is there's actually an article over there which talks about Center of Excellence. There's a video over there as well, and right there in hidden, it is actually in the link to it. And that link is actually already that's stored in GitHub. But download that entire zipped file, and it's got some explanation. Also, they've just released in an article which walks you through it. That article didn't exist before, but now they've already promoted that. So yeah, just Bing for Center of Excellence, and you'll find the whole thing, the app, which comes as a full solution, and the new article as well. You'll find it.
Brilliant. On behalf of the ESPC community, thank you, Daniel, for taking the time today to complete this webinar and questions and answer session. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure. As always,
Brilliant.
power apping.
Great. Thank you very much, Daniel. Okay, everybody, this is the end of today's webinar. Please see sharepointeurope.com for further details on all upcoming webinars, or visit our resource center for all previous episodes. Again, a big thank you to Daniel today, and thank you all for joining us. Take care and goodbye.
All right, that was fun.